Hi guys, something very dishonest takes place in the House of Commons. Scottish MPs from the ruling party use their time to attack the Scottish Government on issues that are devolved. For example, the NHS, which is the responsibility of Holyrood, is raised by members of the Scottish Parliament on pretty much every day it sits. However, it's not the business of Westminster how the NHS is run in Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland. So in Parliament on Wednesday, like pretty much every time Scotland is raised, MPs from the governing party wasted parliamentary time on petty attacks on the SNP government. Have a listen to this.
Chris Kay.
Thank you. Does the Minister agree with me? Does the Minister agree with me that alongside the triple lock and pensions, the most important thing for women pensioners in Scotland is to fix our NHS, and that the SNP government needs to act urgently to ensure vulnerable Scots don't face what even the SNP Health Secretary says are unacceptable waits for treatment?
Mr Speaker, I couldn't agree more. Scotland's NHS is in crisis. 1 in 6 Scots are on a waiting list. The UK government has provided a record investment to fix Scotland's public services. The Scottish government, led by the SNP, should get on with it.
Lord MacDonald.
The most common problem raised by women pensioners in East Hampshire to me is, like the member for Stirling says, the enormous waiting lists. And with researchers from Oxford University, Strathclyde University and Edinburgh University predicting that by the time the SNP leave office they'll be headed towards 1 million of Scots on waiting lists, how can we make sure that the billions provided in the Labour budget don't go down the same drain as everything else that is given to the SNP?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Scots today, 1 in 6 are on a waiting list. We face a housing emergency and a very stubborn attainment gap. Nobody could look around Scotland and say it is going in the right direction. That's the choice people will have to make at 2026. Is Scotland going in the right or wrong direction? Canny Scots, I'm sure, will make choices in the interests of their families and say that it's time to replace a failing SNP government.
Oh my goodness. Okay. What's the problem here? The problem here is that when the Conservatives were in power, the Conservatives would attack the Labour government in Wales and say, look at the disaster of the NHS in Wales. You know, don't vote for the Labour Party because they're a disaster in Wales. And the response from the Labour Party is, well, it's not our fault, it's Westminster. Now, it seems Labour MPs in Scotland are standing up one after the other, literally one after the other, and complaining about the NHS in Scotland when it's a devolved issue. This is the responsibility to be raised by members of the Scottish Parliament from the Labour Party. This is a Scottish issue. It's not a Westminster issue. Why are they raising it? Well, they're raising it because they want to take potshots at the SNP government in Holyrood. That's what it's about. In the same way as the Tories were, why were the Tories talking about the NHS in Wales? They were doing it because they wanted to take potshots at the Welsh government run by the Labour Party. These are devolved matters. Like if it was not a devolved matter, it would make sense to talk about it. But it's it's the responsibility of your representatives in the Scottish Parliament. Labour members of the Scottish Parliament should be raising, and they do. They raise the issue of the NHS, and that's their job. It's not the job of an MP, a Scottish MP from Labour, to talk about the NHS in Scotland, in the same way as they're not supposed to talk about the NHS in Wales. It's not their responsibility. And also, the British government can do nothing about that. So even if they want to raise the issue, what can the British government do about the NHS in Scotland? Nothing, because they have no control over it, because it's devolved. This is time wasting. It's taking stupid potshots at a government for the sake of grandstanding. Look, I have to show that I'm actually standing up for my constituents. No, actually stand up for your constituents and ask questions that are relevant, not this rubbish. Once again, I'm criticising the Labour Party here because they're doing it this time. I was criticising the Conservatives when they were doing it as well. This is wasting parliamentary time when it should be used to talk about things that are relevant to constituents, things that are not devolved. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.